This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
The biggest golf betting event and just golf event in general of the year is here. It is Masters Week as the best golfers in the world heading to Augusta National for this week to try to dethrone Scottie Scheffler as the Masters champion. For today, we're going to dive in and break down this event from a full betting perspective, talking outrights, talking non-outrights, and our best bet of the week at FanDuel Sportsbook. Joining me today to do that is Brandon Gdula. He's going to break down his thoughts on the course and much more to get you set for this week's event. Welcome on into Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast. My name is JimSannes. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research. Joined here, as mentioned, by Brandon Gdula. You can find him on X at Gdula13. He is on Blue Sky at Gdula. Check him out at FanDuel Research, where he is a senior managing editor. Of course, my co-host on The Heat Check, our weekly golf podcast as well, in the FanDuel Research podcast feed. Brandon, it is Augusta week. How are we doing today?
Good. Excited to put all of the research and put all the research to use, and then let the hype that's been built up since our last major finally just release like a dam come Thursday morning.
I'm excited about that. I'm excited for some three balls to fire on Thursday, hopefully Friday, Saturday, Sunday as well. I'm sure everyone else is just as excited for that very specific thing as I am. Excited to see the storylines here of Scottie Scheffler versus Rory McIlroy. A lot of good stuff to dissect for this week. And also, two guys who have been very kind to me are going to leave my betting card for today. If you've listened to Covering the Spread, talking golf in the past, we've had just Brandon give his thoughts, but I'm going to mix mine in too, because why not? It's Masters Week, so we're going to talk about what I like for this week as well to get you set for Augusta. We'll dive into all that here in just 1 second, but first, a reminder to make sure you are subscribed to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. A lot of good stuff coming up throughout the month of April and into May as well. Kentucky Derby, not too far down the pipe. Couple of shows for that week. We're going to have some NFL draft content as well. All right here on the Covering the Spread podcast feed. Go to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. Hit subscribe. And if you like what you hear, give us a 5-star rating and review as well. And if you want some thoughts on DFS for the Masters, we did break down our thoughts on that on the Heat Check. That is up on the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page, as it is every single week. FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page. Leave us a thumbs up there if you're watching. Appreciate you all as always. Check out the Heat Check there each and every week, and turn on notifications to get those shows as they go live, typically Tuesdays each week for the PGA Tour events, to get our thoughts over there. FanDuel is giving customers an offer unlike any other for the first major at Augusta, because right now new customers get $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Can Jordan Spieth get his second green jacket? Can Rory McIlroy get his first? Can Wyndham Clark win at 80-1 for the third time? Who knows? A lot of good storylines to track for this week. You can bet first round leaders, top 20s, 30s, three balls. They put three balls in the ad copy. Shout out ad people at FanDuel, putting three balls and recognizing the best market in golf, tournament matchups, and so much more. Plus, you'll get paid instantly when you bring home a major win this major season. So don't wait. Download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, and swing for some green at Augusta. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelpline.ma.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Now, Brandon, let's dig in to Augusta National and get people ready for this weekend to fill out their bet slips. Most of us know Augusta pretty well because they go here every year. One of the few majors that is a staple, the only major that is a staple where they go every single year. Kind of know what to expect. But in general, which attributes or stats should be emphasized when doing our research, try to identify which golfers we want to bet on for this week?
You got to be good tee to green. It's an overall test. Yes, the putting on these fast and slightly larger than average on your PGA Tour greens, y- like the putting matters, but tee to green matters. I'm going to start off there, kind of cut to the core here. We don't. It's kind of strange to think about. I feel a little spoiled because we've had some strokes gain data from Augusta for 4 years now. But it wasn't that long ago where we didn't have any of that. So it feels like, boy, how quickly I forgot what it was like to sort of impute and imply and do everything it took. But over the last 4 years, according to Data Golf, the last four winners were first, second, and second, starting from last year, moving back in strokes gained tee to green for the tournament. Putting was still pretty good 22nd, 13th, and 23rd. But this is too much of a difficult test to struggle with a particular area, tee to green. Now you can be a little bit subpar in one of the three categories, but frankly, this is telling us that you can't have weaknesses tee to green. If you want to dig beyond the tee to green, you can look at driving distance. It's a long course, over 7,500 yards for the par 72. You'll see an added level of frequency on approach shots from 150 plus yards with the elevation changes. Like there's distance, but there's also elevation. So that's not enough to disqualify for me some potentially more accurate hitters. We've seen certain golfers who aren't super long off the tee play well at Augusta still. But overall, I know it might sound kind of basic, but it's strokes gained tee to green, which is a little different than just overall form because I'm not factoring in putting to a huge degree, although I do want to see some of it. So for me, strokes gained, my key stats this week: strokes gained approach, strokes gained off the tee with an emphasis on driving distance, strokes gained around the green. If I do it that way, I can kind of wait out things. I can kind of down weight around the green a little bit, look more at approach, which is the most important stat every week. Proximity from 150 plus yards. And there's also the added element of course form. You and I talked about it a lot on Monday on our Heat Check podcast, which is a little more, skewed toward daily fantasy, but broke that down a lot more. You can read up some more notes for me on FanDuel Research this week, but form does matter, and form particularly matters at Augusta. Yes, it's a narrative, but I think there's also something to it when it comes to actually winning. We've seen some golfers debut pretty well. Ludwig, Oberg last year, if not for Scotty Scheffler, would have made some pretty stellar history, but he did not. Will Zalatoris debuted well here. We've seen Jordan Spieth debut with it. Like it can happen. I think Sungjae Im even in his debut. Don't quote me on that.
Tony Finau was top 10, I know, in his first, because he almost like broke his ankle in the par 3 contest and then still finished top 10.
So it's a matter of, are we talking outrights? There's probably something to the amount of course knowledge and being in good enough form for long enough to have played the Masters before. Right now, there's not a lot of the debutantes who are piquing my interest in terms of outrights, but it is something to keep in mind for this week.
There is a debutante I like for a top 10 bet, which we'll talk about later on today. You mentioned, though, the emphasis on tee to green, and you can't really fake that. You're not seeing a lot of randos lead the field in strokes gained tee to green. And if you look at the winners recently, it's been a lot of studs. Scotty Scheffler, John Rahm, Scotty Scheffler, Hideki Matsuyama, Dustin Johnson, all these guys who were like in top tier elite form at the time. So it feels like recently, especially, we've seen a lot of favorites win. Are you tailoring your betting card towards that, avoiding long shots, or do you think we still can find some value on long shots as long as they check the boxes you're looking for?
I mean, it depends on what you deem as a long shot, which is always kind of nebulous with golf. Because you get, a name at 30-1, for example. That's a long number in the grand scheme of sports betting, but within golf, it's still, basically tier 2, tier 3 type of name. So it does depend, but I think the best way I can answer that is you got to cool it a little bit with some long shots. And we all know what we mean by like long shots in that sense. So the official World Golf Rankings, they're not the perfect measure of overall form, especially now because we have golfers from the Live Tour playing, not accruing official World Golf Rankings points in their live events. They can get, some points from playing other tours, but I'm just going to read out this stat here, and I think this will probably sum up the core of what you're asking. So since 2010, every winner at Augusta has been inside the top 30 in the official World Golf Rankings at the start of the week prior to their win. The average rank was 10.7, and 4 of the last 5 winners were top 3. The outlier there being Hideki Matsuyama, who was 25th. Again, it's a little tricky just to look at the top 30 now because of the Live Tour, but you can kind of find ways around that, get some estimations. Sites like Data Golf have field strength adjusted form over certain time periods. They have their overall rankings as well. It's not the only one. I mean, I'm not going to go down the list, but there's like the universal golf rankings as well. You can kind of just figure out how to factor in who's sort of a top 30-ish golfer worldwide right now. And maybe some of those names are at longer odds. And I'm not saying there's a firm cutoff in any specific ranking system, but yeah, like to answer your question, we're probably not going to see someone like 80th in the world outduel the top 30 plus golfers who are all playing good. I mean, a lot of these guys are playing great golf, and it's a course where you have to have some knowledge. So that affects the outright market much more so than even finishing positions or matchups or groups. So that's something to keep in mind. But overall, when it comes to the long shots, when it comes to outrights, this is not my favorite event to go after them.
Yeah, you need to ask yourself, can this guy realistically top Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, John Rahm, Colin Morikawa, Xander Schauffele? Like, you go through that entire list.
Yeah.
I think the guys I have this week can. Be it to ask that question. And that is something that I want to go through. And like sometimes, some weeks the answer is yes. This week, the answer might be no. And that might alter who you go with. Hypothetically, top 34 in the Data Golf World Rankings is okay enough by me. Top 34 specifically, 35 no dice, 34 we're good. I think that's what I'm looking for sure. So let's take a look at the betting odds at FanDuel Sportsbook for this week. And of course, Scotty Scheffler is a favorite. He is 4-1 at FanDuel Sportsbook, followed by Rory McIlroy plus 650 for a dip down to John Rahm back up there at 14-1. Brandon, let's begin things with the outrights. I'm going to have you go first, then I'll go through the ones that I like. Who are you picking to win it all this week?
I wouldn't say I've wavered, but I've been patient with everything. I like to kind of take a look early, especially for a major week, and see where things kind of settle. But I like to get my bearings and then wait and see, unless there's a number that I love. The one name I have not really moved away from in any form or fashion is Colin Morikawa, whose odds to win the Masters are plus 1,600 on FanDuel Sportsbook this week. I mentioned this at the top, but the last 4 winners here were top 2 in strokes gained tee to green during their win with pretty solid putting, top 25 numbers. Colin Morikawa leads the field in strokes gained tee to green since the start of 2025, according to Data Golf. That includes live golfers, and it adjusts for field strengths. He is 0.4 shots per round better than Rory McIlroy, who's in second in that split in terms of tee to green play. And you might be thinking, well, he can't putt. That's not really the case. He's actually a positive putter in that span. His putting splits from within 15 feet on tour are good. I've found that that's really predictive long term for future putting success. And if you want to talk putting, again, tee to green matters more than putting at Augusta. With these fast greens, it's sort of just a different test. But Colin Morikawa at Augusta, in those 4 years where we have strokes gain data, he has gained on these greens in all 4. If you look back at that 4-year sample, he's basically a top 20 putter at Augusta. We got to pay the price for Scotty Scheffler, right? We got to pay the price for Rory. It even seems like that's the case for Jon Rahm. What we're not getting, though, is that Colin Morikawa hasn't won in a while. He's golfing nearly as well as Scotty and Rory, and we're getting a much better number on Morikawa. I know there's a narrative that he can't close. I don't buy it. I didn't buy it with Xander Schauffele last year. That kind of worked out from a major standpoint. And I'm going to talk more about it later, probably too. But Data Golf has a pressure tool. You can look at how guys have played in different conditions, entering round 3, entering round 4. Not all of your favorite golfers who are closing out these tournaments golf phenomenally well when they have a chance to win tournaments. What we notice is that Colin Morikawa has been in contention and has not closed. The way you get into contention is by playing great golf for 54 holes. Eventually something's going to go his way. 16-1 at a course where, by the way, he's played really well despite not being long. Colin Morikawa, for me, 16-1 is where I'm starting this week.
You mentioned the putter, and he actually made a putter change at this event last year at the Masters. So including that one, he's played 21 events, only shot length for 20 of those 21. So his past 20 measured events, he has lost strokes putting only 6 times, which is not a bad number by any means. So I do think that that narrative around Morikawa not being able to putt is a bit outdated. And specifically, he's had like upside putting weeks too. And so, like, if you want to spike, you need routes to upside. With Xander, we talked about how the fact that he was getting more distance off the tee last year, that made him more volatile. With Morikawa, it's kind of, I think, the putter that's giving him a bit more upside. So I'm not quite there at 16-1, but I think the case you make makes a lot of sense. And I can definitely see it with Morikawa to believe that 16-1 is a fair number.
Yeah. I know it just feels similar enough to Xander last year, where it's the narrative that he can't close. It's, well, he's won majors, but he can't win in front of a crowd. I just don't buy it. I don't think that that's how golf works. I think that if Colin Morikawa were playing worse golf, we wouldn't even notice anything he's doing in the 4th round. But I'm just telling you, like, not all of the guys who have a lot of wins right now play lights out every single time that they're in contention. So I'm there with Morikawa. I understand not being there, but for me, he's my favorite name, shorter than 20-1.
Well, I'm going to go back to you for your second outright in a second, but let's talk about the guy we referenced a bunch during that, because he is my favorite win bet for this week. That is Xander Schauffele, 20-1. Talked about him on yesterday's show. Do still like him sitting at that number because I think we're getting a good discount on Morikawa or on Xander, and it's because it's for a legitimate reason. He's hurt. He hurt his rib earlier this year, missed a couple of weeks, a couple months as a result of that, and he hasn't done great since then. But he did show a lot of life at the Valspar, his most recent event. He actually led the field approach that week, and he gained off the tee in his first event back as well. So first event back, gains off the tee. Second event back, he is hideous at the Players. Third event back, he leads the field approach at the Valspar. Just kind of need those two things to go hand in hand, and for the putter to be the Xander Schauffele putter we've come to know over the past couple of years. So if you were to take Xander Schauffele from the end of last year and ignore what's happened since then, he's probably 10-1 in this field or so. Maybe that's ambitious given that how well Rory's playing, but like, I don't think he's longer than 15. And that to me says we're getting a really good discount on Schauffele. And there's a decent chance that he's better based on how good those irons were at the Valspar. He has 4 top 10s at Augusta in the past, so the course history is there too. So I'm going to buy into Xander. Was on it for both his majors last year. We're going back once again, trying to get that third leg of the career Grand Slam. I think he can get the job done. So I want to buy low on Xander Schauffele, 20-1 for this week as my favorite outright on the board.
I love it. When it comes to Xander, the question of whether he can win, like that's gone now. The question now is his health. And he, to me, is showing that he's healthy enough because you mentioned he led in strokes gained approach at the Valspar, but in his 3 events since returning from that injury, he's gained distance on the field, which is something that he's done. Like he's added a lot of distance to his game.
Yeah.
The short game just isn't there. And I wonder if that will come back to get him if he had to work on the rehab and work on the ball striking. And he just hasn't had enough time to put into the short game. But what I'm going to say is when it comes to making, I would say this is applicable in all sports, but for me, I feel this way, especially about golf. It's easy to kind of get caught up in some hype or narratives or a name that's maybe at a longer number than you think based on name value. But just try to envision how you're going to feel like Thursday when you start to see the leaderboard accrue and see where guys are. There is no reason that you should feel actively bad about saying I liked Xander at 20-1. This guy who just won 2 majors. He's got a chance to win, 3 out of 4 majors. If he can just have that short game back, like, yeah, this is a great number. So it's strange for me not to be on Xander, but I understand fully. I just think that Morikawa right now is effectively who Xander was last year.
Sure. I think that's a very fair argument to make. So you got Morikawa 16. I've got Xander at 20. What's your other outright for this week?
So there are some other names I like, including Russell Henley at 50-1. But when it comes down to it, like I said, same exact thing. How are you going to feel knowing that the tournament started and you have exposure somewhere? You're not going to feel bad if you have some exposure to Brooks Koepka. So Brooks Koepka, 30-1 to win the Masters. I'm there as well. By not going with Scottie Scheffler or Rory McIlroy at short numbers, I feel like I have some flexibility in this large mid-range, and getting to Brooks is something that I want to do. He has gained on approach in 3 straight live events, which data golf adjusts for field strength there. I know it's not 72 holes. I get that. But he's actually playing really well around the green. And that is one of the key stats for Augusta. You have to have that creativity. You have to have like good hands. And it's not really what we think about when we think of Brooks Koepka, but he's virtually always been a positive player around the green. And that's super important at a course like this with the elevation, with just tricky lies, getting up and down, saving par. And the thing with him, we know that he is able to outplay his data when it comes to majors. And he's always really hard to figure out leading into majors. But if you look at his Augusta form recently, it doesn't look particularly great. 45th last year, 2nd in 2023, that T2, and then 2 missed cuts. He was hurt pretty badly for a while, and then he bounced back with the T2. And then last year, I don't think it was what we expected. Really struggled around the greens, putted well, irons were subpar. But before that at Augusta, 7th, 2nd, 11th, and 21st. And again, I will take any signs of life I can from Brooks, and we're seeing it with the ball striking, and we're seeing it with the chipping. And then if you look event by event, the putting's either hot or it's cold. If it's cold, you're not winning with a cold putter at Augusta. But if it's hot, in addition to hitting the center of the greens, getting up and down whenever you do miss the greens, that's how you can win at Augusta. So for me, I would not regret having exposure to Brooks Koepka by any means. So I'm there at 30-1.
And he's just healthy. Like, I feel with Brooks, like, he can have those spike weeks if he's healthy, and he's that now, and he's been that for a pretty good amount of time at this point, frankly. Like when he left for Live, the health wasn't really there, but like I think he proved back in 2023 at Augusta that he was pretty much back to being what he had been in the past. So Brandon is on Brooks Koepka 30-1. When we talked yesterday on the show, my other outright was Corey Connors. He was 65 and he's shortened to 55. That's Wales, just moving numbers. I'm going to use that as an excuse to pivot elsewhere because the number does matter. So it's not really just an excuse, but also my guy, Wyndham Clark, is still sitting there at 90-1. And after recording yesterday, I did bite, took him 95. And I think that 90 is long enough for me to go there for sure. So I'm going to take Wyndham Clark at 90-1 to win this week because he actually does pass that sniff test of, okay, can I see this guy beating Rory McIlroy? He did that head-to-head at the U.S. Open. Can I see him beating Scottie Scheffler? Can I see him beating all these other guys? And the answer to me is yes, because he is absurdly volatile. But he's showing signs of having the positive end of that volatility once again. He's actually gained an approach in 3 straight events and 6 of the past 8. When Wyndham had like that down tick towards, I guess, like kind of spring, summerish most of last year, it was primarily because his irons weren't that good. But the putter can spike too. He's got really good distance and really good overall driving off the tee. And yeah, he can get erratic. That didn't penalize him when he won the U.S. Open, but missing the fairway is also not as punishing here as it would be at a lot of other places. Now, Wyndham last year was his debut at Augusta, and he was awful. Missed the cut there, but it was all at the putter. He actually gained 0.80 strokes per round off the tee in that event. I do prefer him outright versus a finishing bet because the longer the odds, the lower your bet size. At least that's the way it should be. I don't want to have a large amount of money on Wyndham Clark. So by having an outright on him, I'm forcing myself to lower the amount of financial exposure I have to Wyndham while still allowing myself to benefit from the upside that he can have. So I'm going to go Wyndham Clark 90-1 to win this week as my second outright in addition to Xander Schauffele. I just feel like when he's this long, I know he's not the magical number of 80, which is what he was when he won the U.S. Open and at Pebble Beach. But, we're doing it anyway. Wyndham Clark 90-1 to win this week. I finally bit Brandon. I caved.
Hey, we talked about being top 30 in the official World Golf Rankings leading in. He's 11th.
I think those are pretty fraudulent, which is why I mentioned 34th in the data golf rankings. I had to fudge it around a bit because I was like, I can't even like tongue in cheek go with the World Golf Rankings anymore. But hey, we'll still vibe on 34th in the data golf World Golf Rankings.
I get it. At his peak, I understand it. But when you're talking these type of odds, 90-1, you're talking about you're saying if he plays the way that he can play, that's what you're looking for. He can go out and win this thing for sure.
For sure. Okay. So I got Wyndham Clark 90, Xander Schauffele 20, Brandon has Brooks Koepka 30, and Colin Morikawa 16-1. Let's talk some non-outrights. FanDuel Sportsbook is offering a promo this week, little odds boost on finishing position bets. So, Brandon, any finishing position bets stand out to you? Any non-outrights in general you like for Augusta this week?
Yeah, I went through a lot of the nationality markets, which I always love for majors, but I kind of went back to some finishing positions instead. I'm going to start with a top 10, which is the more ambitious of the two that I have here, but it's on a Canadian, Corey Connors, at plus 400 to finish top 10 on FanDuel Sportsbook. Connors, I mentioned how important tee to green is. Corey Connors is one of the best tee to green golfers in the world. He has 3 top 10s at Augusta in his career, all in the last 5 years. His game right now is on point. He's finished top 25 in 5 straight events. He's played well across the board, including the putter. This is kind of a tailor-made course for Corey Connors where you just see putting be a little bit mitigated due to the fact that you have to kind of putt defensively for the most part because it's so fast. It really has like kind of equalized things in terms of putting. Again, great putters can still gain strokes here. That's not like it's just random. That's not what I'm saying. But being a better tee to green golfer is more important than just being a great putter at Augusta. And we've seen that probably just exemplified by Corey Connors in recent rounds. So for me, Corey Connors top 10 plus 400 is definitely getting my attention.
He's actually my favorite non-outright as well. This specific market, actually, too. I talked before about how his outright number had shortened from 65 to 55. The top 10 has held steady, been 4-1 this whole time. So I think that if you're betting Corey Connors, I did like the 65 yesterday, with him still sitting at 4-1 for a top 10. That to me is the preferred market due to the T to green play, due to the fact that he's done well at Augusta previously. I think that all adds up to make him a really solid bet at 4-1. So of the non-outrights, that would be my favorite for this week. In addition to Connors at 4-1 for a top 10, Brandon, where else are you seeing value for this week?
So I'm going to bump down to the top 20 market. And I know, these numbers, it's a smaller field, kind of, the cut's different than what you typically get at the PGA Tour. But I like Robert McIntyre to finish top 20 at plus 150 on FanDuel Sportsbook. He's a lefty, which is never a bad thing. It's maybe a little bit overvalued potentially, but it's not anything that I dislike by any means. He's 10th, according to Data Golf, over his last 50 rounds in strokes gained tee to green with field strength adjustments baked in. He's finished top 25 in both of his Augusta starts in his career. He enters with 3 straight top 11 finishes across the world. And if you look at the putting, I know, like I said, putting's not the most important, but I already laid out he's the top 10 tee to green golfer. He might be due for some putting regression. He's a solid putter, 47th percentile from within 15 feet on tour this season, but 13th percentile beyond that, which, historically you want to see good putting from within 15 feet. You still want to see good putting from beyond 15 feet. But if you don't, historically speaking, mathematically speaking, he's probably a better putter than his strokes gain numbers are right now. Over the last 50 rounds, I believe he's 67th. Yeah, 67th in strokes gain putting. He is not as long as you might think based on the big shot Bob moniker, but he's not short by any means. So for me, he does enough, and he's shown that at Augusta already. So I like him plus 150 to finish top 20.
You don't got to talk me into Big Shot Bob. Plus 150 for a top 20 Robert McIntyre, where Brandon is going there, and also likes Corey Connors. Top 10 at 4-1. Mentioned before, FanDuel is running a profit boost on these finishing positions, and the bigger the number, the bigger the boost you get. And I actually do like a guy who's somewhat of a long shot for a top 10. And he's a longer shot because he's a debutant, and he's a longer shot because he's pretty bad around the green. But I do really like Taylor Pendrith once again this week. He is currently plus 850 for a top 10 at FanDuel Sportsbook. And outside of the around the green play, this should be a course that suits him well because he is a guy who gains off the tee via just mashing. Really good distance for Pendrith. He has had elite irons for a pretty good sample now. And he's a guy who can spike with the putter. Had a long stretch earlier on this winter where the putter was not that good, but it has come back to him a bit recently, the past 2 events, gaining there on the greens, hoping that he's kind of cleared up the issues there. The around the green play probably still not going to get the job done. That's definitely not a strong suit for him, but this number helps account for that. He can have some issues and still push for a top 10. He had top 10s at the Texas Children's Houston Open. He was at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am top 10. He finished top 10 at the Farmers. He's been doing this quite a bit. So I think a plus 850, again, you get a little bit extra juice via that profit boost as well. I think that's enough to make Pendrith attractive, despite the fact he does struggle around the green, despite the fact this is his first time at Augusta. I think there's enough there to feel good about Pendrith at plus 850 for a top 10. Is that number, Brandon, long enough to alleviate the concerns, and I should say justifiable concerns you may have about Pendrith for this week?
I like that number. So no real issues there. I actually do like Pendrith in some form or fashion.
Mm-hmm.
I would shout out too. You mentioned like the debutante angle, which is, it's a pretty real thing in terms of figuring out how to play the course. But there's also top debutante market. He is plus 700 in that one. I kind of don't mind that by any means.
I looked at it. I always feel weird in those markets when I can't like look at it, like use some kind of model to know if it's good value, just because I know the hold in those markets can be kind of high. So I got a little itchy, not with that, but I did look at that for the same reasons you were alluding to.
Well, I did model that one out. I have around plus 625.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I did see him elsewhere. He was 4-1 in that market, so that's might have been why I was itching. Okay. Like, oh man, 7-1's not bad though. Okay.
Yeah. So you have Davis Thompson, Aaron Rye, who I don't mind as well. They're plus 600, plus 650, but Pendrith's plus 700. You laid out the case for him, but this way kind of gives you the angle of not having to worry about the other or you're factoring in the other debutantes here. So
yeah,
if he can figure it out more than they can, I mean, look, that's a pretty nice return in that sense. Yeah. So I see value on it. So I'm with you. We like the Canadians, just got to figure out the right way to get access to them.
Okay. So we're on the Canadians. I like Pendrith plus 850 for a top 10. You like Corey Connors. I like Corey Connors as well. So we're both on that one. I'm trying to find these other markets here that you were alluding to.
Yeah, I tried to link it to you, but it's under futures. But
okay.
There's also two similar URLs, but
okay, here we go. So we have first time winner. Ooh, and some matchups up. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have the one I'm looking for?
No.
Because I'm going to ask you about your favorite bet for the Masters. If you only had one, and the one that I want a McIlroy versus Scottie Scheffler bet. It's not up yet. Based on what I've seen in the ether, I'm guessing it'll probably be plus 120. If we get that, I'm going to take it. I took a 125 on that yesterday. So I think that we'll probably get that at some point. So for my favorite bet for the Masters, that's the one that I want. I want the McIlroy over Scheffler bet. If we can get that posted at some point at FanDuel Sportsbook, maybe we'll have to reach out to some people and see what we can get popping over there. But the reason I want that is just because Rory's been playing so well recently. We know how good Scottie is. The putting was a lot better his last time out, so has alleviated some concerns there. But it's not quite peak Rory McIlroy, but it's pretty dang close. And I think that he's doing some fun stuff that makes me feel pretty good about what he could do at Augusta specifically. So I don't see value at plus 650 to win. I think that's a little short, but I do like the idea of betting him versus Scheffler. So if we do get that match posted at FanDuel Sportsbook in the plus 120-ish area, plus 110, I think that's too short for me because I think that Scottie should be favored, but plus 120 is a big enough gap for me to feel good about Rory if we do get that one there. What about you, Brandon? If I give you one bet, it can be one we've discussed, it can be one we have not discussed yet. I give you one bet to place for Augusta. What bet is that?
Can I clarify that your one bet is one that's hypothetical? Is that what you did to me here?
It's not entirely hypothetical. There are ways around this.
Okay, so I went with Morikawa to win.
Okay.
So do you want something like
No, I think that
not quite 16-1?
No, I've had weeks where my favorite bet is a win bet, like something that's hypothetically 80-1. I've had weeks where that's the case. So no, I think that's totally fine.
So I think Morikawa you can only make one bet. You can't regret going with Colin Morikawa because the game right now is so good. And even if he comes out and struggles in round one, you can't look back and say it was bad process. Mm-hmm. This is a course that historically rewards strokes gained tee to green. He leads the field in tee to green in 2025. His putter is a lot better than people realize. There is, to me, no such thing. There's not enough to believe that he can't close out tournaments. Again, I've looked up his pressure numbers against some other closers. It's not that different. So just I'm not going to name names or anything, but
name names. I'm curious.
Well, it's because
I can peer pressure you, right? Is that okay?
It's because it depends on what's a pressure situation. If you're 10th and you play poorly, does it matter?
Is this like the NBA's clutch award where it's a bunch of convoluted things and it's how often you're in them and stuff like that? The worst.
That's what I'm saying. It's
that's ever existed. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, and it's LeBron's not good because he loses in the finals. Well, guess what? I'd rather get to the finals and lose than
Nikola Jokic isn't eligible for this award because he's been smoking teams, hasn't played in the clutch. Cool.
So I'm not going to name names. You can go toy around with it yourself. It's fun, if nothing else. But my point is, you're getting the best tee to green golfer right now. Statistically, yes, Scotty's going to win that one out long term. But in 2025, nobody's been better than Morikawa. His putter's a lot better than people realize. And you're getting a good number. And you're getting someone who's a realistic winner here. So if I only have one, that's the one I want this week. Gives me something to look forward to. It's 16-1 in terms of a return. There are ways you could, if I understand Jim for in terms of like a head-to-head, that's also fine. It just depends on what you want. And to me, that's why golf's my favorite sport when it comes to betting and betting analysis, because there's kind of a mix of anything you could possibly want. I know for Jim, you probably were kicking yourself that you didn't have a 3-ball as your favorite bet.
There are no 3 balls posted yet, bro.
I know.
I looked. So yes, like you're right.
Yeah, well, then stop you from saying
look.
But 16-1 to me, assault like 1 unit, totally fine, good enough return. I think the math, my model likes it. I like it. I like the process of it. So I'm going with Morikawa.
I think the 16-1 works. I think that's a fair favorite bet. I just like I think part of the reason I like the idea of a Rory versus Scotty head to head is because I wanted to find a way to buy into Rory. I'm kicking myself for not taking him to win the Masters before he won the Players, which is something like I looked into, and like he's just shortened ever since then, which is very annoying. I'm just kind of like kicking myself for that. And I want to have some kind of exposure when Rory gets that first green jacket on Sunday. So I think that's a big part of why it's my favorite. But yeah, I think that Morikawa, given that it's what we think is like solid value, guy who's done well here, someone whose game does fit Augusta with how good he is tee to green, I think that's fair at 16-1.
Also, like these 72 hole matchups were not up as we started, so I didn't get to really leaf through them and make them my favorite bet. But the one that jumps out to me most right now is Xander Schauffele against Hideki Matsuyama, with Xander just -115.
Oh,
Hideki's not in particularly good form, and we're basically looking at Xander as you passed it.
I was sorry. I was going for selfish reasons. Sometimes I forget that I'm screen sharing and I just kind of want to see what things are at. Yeah. -115 for Xander makes sense. Well, I like Shane Lowry. I can't do -115 against Brooks, but like I like Shane Lowry, so I was kind of curious about that. Henley versus -140.
The fun part is I see the case for Lowry over Brooks in the head-to-head market, but liking Brooks outright. Like,
well, that's like I could see backing Daniel Berger at -110 against Wyndham Clark for the same reason.
Yes.
So yes, I hear you on that. I'm gonna keep scouring. I was hoping JJ Spawn would be okay. Well, I guess I know what I'm doing for the next 20 minutes is pouring through these, but I feel like we got a pretty good card filled out for Augusta this week. Got some fun ones, got some outrights, got some non-outrights we both like here. I think that should be set up for a fun event and a fun week overall. That is all that we have here for today on covering the spread. Again, if you want some more thoughts specifically about some DFS stuff, did talk about that yesterday on the Heat Check. That's on the FanDuel Research podcast feed, but also right here, watching YouTube, the exact same channel. That's the word. Exact same channel. Check that out on the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page. Leave us a thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications to get those shows as they go live for the PGA each and every week. Brandon, appreciate the time as always. Good luck to you for Augusta. Enjoy the golf. And we'll talk to you once again soon.
Always a pleasure.
You can find Brandon on X at Gdula13. He is on Blue Sky at Gdula. Check him out at FanDuel Research again, FanDuel.com/research. See all of his golf work each and every week. DFS helper up there for this week as well. I am on X and Blue Sky at JimSannes. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Big thank you to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work in the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Enjoy Augusta this weekend. Enjoy the golf. Good luck with your bets. We'll talk to you once again soon. This has been Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast.